and it's their intrinsic
And then, this food basically robs.
sound feasible, sound like
Let's keep on moving.
Okay, so just like the Torah, we don't have the original New Testament. We only have copies of copies. Those copies are full of errors and mistakes. You have things added, things taken away. So for people to say the Bible is inerrant, I mean, you can't say that, especially when you look at what I just showed you. Even the oldest manuscripts is full of errors and full of mistakes. They added things, they took things out, they put things in that's not supposed to be in there. We know that, the woman taken in adultery, that verse was added. We know that in Mark, we're supposed to stop at 16:8. From 9 through 20 was added later on. That has been proven. So when people look at this stuff and when they hear about these facts, they simply do not accept it. And this is another one of the reasons why the Hebrews like to say that King James got it right. Rome tried to trick people. But the thing is, it's not that King James just got a revelation from God and decided to, put out the King James Version. You have to look at the history of that time and what happened. Understand that King Henry VIII, he had an issue with the Pope. He wanted a divorce. The Pope wouldn't give him a divorce from his wife. He wanted a divorce because his wife could not have sons. So he wanted to divorce her. The Pope wouldn't do it. So what happened was he basically made a bunch of royal decrees to basically get the Pope, the Catholic Church, out of the Church of England. So they kicked Rome basically out of their churches and basically stopped giving Rome, money, tax money. And you had King Henry VIII basically give us, the Great Bible, basically redo the Bible and, take out the Roman part of it. Then you had, after that, you had Elizabeth I give us the Bishop's Bible and basically give us her translation of the Bible, which King James looked at, and a lot of people looked at and said that there's a lot of mistakes in it. It's not really representing the original Hebrew the correct way. And a lot of the Protestants was having problems with it. This is why King James was basically asked or forced to basically come out with the King James Version, because when you look at the facts, this is what was said. Because there was a lot of mistakes with Elizabeth I's Bible, but of course I'll tell you that's all bullshit. It was created to mentally enslave the African slaves, plain and simple, to basically control the masses of people, and that's a proven fact. It wasn't created for no other reason but that one. Some of you may be thinking that the Rome changed a lot of the things in the Bible and King James got it right. But as I said, you cannot get the King James Version without what Rome gave us. What King James used? We know he used the Masoretic text. We know they used the Latin Vulgate as well. They used these books to give us the King James Version, and as I said, that's Rome. Without those, you don't get no King James Version. Hebrews say that a spirit was put on King James, and he got the Holy Spirit, and he just knew the correct translation to put into this book. But I have already revealed all of the errors and mistakes in that book. Now, Rome has greatly benefited from the Bible. Preachers benefit from the Bible. I would like to say African Americans don't benefit from the Bible, but the only good part about the book is the people who have accepted it, it's fact. A lot of those people, because they believe in the Bible, actually turned their life around believing that, Jesus is real and God is real. So in that aspect, the Bible is a good thing, but it's not something that should be worshipped. It's something that should be studied. As I pointed out in, previous videos, all of the parables and the hidden meaning in that book. Now, and I just released a video on Islam and who really controls that book, but I want to go through that briefly as well. As I say, it's a fairly new religion. No disrespect to any Muslims. It's new. You can't find it in ancient times. You can't find it in BC. You're talking about a doctrine that was written in the 7th century. As I said, it was a war between the Arabs, between Rome, between the Persians. in the status quo antebellum. Then all of a sudden we get Islam. It's no coincidence that everything that happened after this war leads us to Islam. Abdul Malik pushing Arabic on everybody. How could Muhammad be giving people this Arabic doctrine when nobody spoke Arabic at that time? It's just stuff that you got to look at and say that it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. So we should question this doctrine. So now I wanted to give you that brief background on these doctrines because, they all have a step, a phase, and play the part in our reality today. As I said in the video I just put out on Islam, that there is 3 phases, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit more. So now, phase 1 of their plan obviously has to do with the Old Testament and the Torah. But even before that, phase 1 of their plan was to bring down Kemet, bring down Egypt, and get the information from them, get the knowledge that the Egyptians wasn't revealing to them, the secrets, the craft. What we have is masonry today, the secrets of the Masons. The Egyptians had it and they did not want to release them to people for whatever reason, and I guess we see today why. Now, the Egyptians still taught. They taught Rome, as Rome will admit. They taught Greece, as Thales and Aristotle and other Greek scholars admit that they went there, and it was Thales who calculated the height of the pyramid. He had to be in Egypt to do that. So we know they studied in Kemet. The whole goal, phase 1, is to bring down Kemet, and they did that. Now, as I said, if you keep up with my videos, you understand how, and then when you look at history, you see that the Persians came into Egypt and conquered it. But when you go a little bit deeper, you see that the Persians are related to the Greeks, and that Xerxes pointed that out, and Herodotus attested to it and wrote about it, that Xerxes told the Greeks that we are related and you shouldn't interfere in our business with Egypt. And that leads you to believe that they might have had an agenda or agreement with Greece, probably Alexander, to go ahead and conquer Egypt, because the Greeks couldn't necessarily go in there and do it on their own because they were in good standing with the Egyptians. They spoke the language, they lived there. So if the Greeks came in and conquered, then the people of Greece probably wouldn't follow, because it would have looked like, why you do that? It would have made Greece look bad. So if you can get the Persians to come in there and do it, then it'll be easier. Then the Greeks can step in, have this whole fake war, if there ever was a war, and just take over. And when you read the history books, it says that they basically conquered Darius III easily, and Alexander wasn't even there when they did it, and they took Egypt. Now, the Egyptians would expect, since I'm cool with Greece, for them to give the land back to the Egyptians, but that didn't happen because their original goal, phase 1, part 1, was to conquer Egypt, but then they had to keep Kemet. So in the video I put out about the Hebrew Israelite doctrine, the Hebrews want to say we come from Israel, and the original Jews is black, which is true. That is true. But we Americans, African Americans, do not come from Israel. We come from Africa. Maybe one of your descendants might come from Israel. It's possible because, as I pointed out in that video, those ancient people from Israel were black, but they were Egyptians. You've got to remember that the Egyptians controlled, they ruled what is known as Canaan or Israel. They ruled it. So when the Persians came in there, of course it's safe to say that Israel was filled with black people because we ruled it. It was part of the Egyptian empire, as you can see. It was under our control. So when the Persians came in and took over, even though they was there in Israel, you got to remember that the Egyptians put up a 60-year-long fight against the Persians before they finally, gained control of Egypt. And then 40 years later, Alexander comes in and take it from them, according to history. But of course, we were already in Israel. So now, after the Persians conquered and then the Greeks conquered, we know that Rome came in there. And then it's sketchy when you look at this part of history because we really don't know if Rome was in cahoots with Greece the whole time, or if they really came and conquered Greece. I know we read stuff in the history books, and this is the hard part because you read stuff and you see pictures, little descriptions and depictions of what possibly happened, but we really don't know what happened. And it's weird how you get the whole Greco-Roman thing, and you would think, and this may be just me saying because they was white, that they would, get along together. But what's suspect is you had Hellenization instilled by the Greeks onto Israel. Then once Rome takes over, the question would be, why would Rome continue Hellenization all the way up until like 330 BCE? We talk about after the Council of Nicaea. They were still instilling or keeping Hellenization on Israel. This is supposed to be the worship of Serapis and Greek gods. Why would Rome continue that? If Rome is supposed to be the whole bringer of, the Bible and these religions and everything, why would they keep Hellenization for hundreds of years? So this makes me believe that they were in cahoots maybe the whole time. And you got to remember that history is written by the conquerors, not the conquered. They could be telling us anything. We unfortunately have to rely on what we can prove. We got to rely on scholars who wrote books, what they talked about, people who lived around that time. And when you look at everything, I mean, it's weird, it's suspect. It seems as if they were in cahoots, because we know Rome at one point was all black, and that's something that you can find there too. For the Romans don't want to admit that, but you can't deny that fact. There's black people there. You got to remember, when they did take over and start bringing in this doctrine, they used the Africans, the black people that was in Rome, to spread it, to basically put it out. So a lot of people will tell you the first pope was black. A lot of those bishops back then was black. And when you see a lot of the depictions, remember, you see the Pope kissing a black Madonna. Everything was black, and it had to be that way because that's who was living over there, and these are the people who they wanted to get into that doctrine because they were everywhere, and they slowly got them out of there. But also, a lot of them fled into Africa where I guess they felt safe. And this is some of the things you got to look at when you start going back in antiquity. You got to look at who was there first and what happened after that. If we start with the Bible, you're going to get confused. So phase one was create the whole Jewish doctrine, the Torah, instill it in those Africans that was in Israel. And they sent a lot of those Africans out. Those Africans went out into Africa from Israel to preach the word. They went out and spread it. They went out and spread Judaism, which is why you find Hebrews and a lot of these African tribes, in Africa, because they came out BCE. We talk about 100 BCE, to spread this word, and it stuck. So a lot of people always say, well, the whole Hebrew doctrine been in Africa for centuries. Well, of course, it's been for centuries because it started centuries ago, but you can't find the doctrine older than the 4th century BC. You can't find the Hebrew doctrine older than when the Greeks conquered into Egypt. They don't exist. So once they got the Africans to learn this doctrine, to spread the doctrine and do all the legwork, all the hard work, they got rid of the Africans in Israel, most of them. A lot of them went out, some fled. But then you have the Greeks, you have Romans, you have Arabs basically step in there and a breed mix. This is why you have, as I was pointing out in the video, you have the people in Israel look like a mix between Arabs and Greeks. But they basically stepped in there and took the role of the Africans. So now they are imposters because they are basically saying that they are the people who was originally in Israel when they wasn't, but the Africans. So now they could take this role, spread the religion, get people to accept the religion in politics, because religion in the Middle East, religion around that time in Europe was politics. You had to be religious to be involved in certain things. If you wasn't a part of a certain religion, you couldn't deal with certain people. So once religion became politics, they can use it to set policy and to basically set, standards for taking over certain, or I should say like rules or standards for taking over certain areas. So the Jews' whole goal was to basically say that, we was here according to the religious doctrine that we all accept. We all accept this doctrine as true. We was here first. We are the Jews. You read the book, you worship it. So you have to honor that and give us our land. So phase one, once they established the religion, once the religion spread, they could say that they are the Jews the Bible speaks of, and basically use it to, occupy certain spaces over there. So that's phase one, Judaism. That's the first step they had to take, was to get that religion established and then build off of that. Now, phase two, of course, the Bible, New Testament, and this whole Christ thing, accepting Christ and basically shaking up Judaism, because Judaism must have a protagonist. It has to happen. You can't have one religion, then everybody will be nitpicking and sticking with this one religion. You got to understand, divide and conquer, and they are masters at it. So this next religion had to be created using the first religion, piggyback off of it, because all they did was basically add more to it and try to say the prophecy of the Old Testament was fulfilled in the New Testament with Jesus coming. And people buy into that, believe that, oh, this is the son of the God of part one. It's almost like a movie, like this is the sequel. Oh snap, what's going on? We got this boy named Jesus. Yeah, he walking around miracles and stuff. It's like a movie, and it's like, put this out. You shake up the whole Jewish faith. You create a separation between people, divide them, and then you use Christianity to basically get into certain places. Now, Christianity was much more accepted, it seems, in other places than Judaism, because Christianity basically answered that whole question of, okay, what is it all for? Because with the Torah, it's like, man, you just die and there's nothing. But of course, the New Testament appealed to those people more, because it's like you can get saved from sins and then you go to heaven and all this and that, Jesus this. And a lot of people bought more into it, the whole praying and, asking for forgiveness and getting what you want from the Lord. And a lot more people bought into that. It was the perfect doctrine to go against Judaism, but also to help, create this friction that they can use. So phase two, once Christianity spread, as I said in the Islamic video, they couldn't go into certain areas, but religiously they could. So they can get in there trying to spread the good word. We just spread the word of God, you know about Jesus, it's all good, it's all love, everything cool. Once you get a society bound by that religion, so everything we doing in the society is based off of this religion, then you can control the society. And that's what it was all about. Once you got these countries and these places, these towns and civilizations to basically function off of Christianity, off of Judaism, then the people who control the religion basically controls who's controlling that place.